why bilingual learners make word order mistakes, and how to fix them. Have you ever had a bilingual or advanced EAL learner who speaks fluently, reads confidently, but still writes sentences that just sound a little off? Maybe they say or write something like, "Important for the ecosystem is the protection of wetlands," rather than "the protection of wetlands is important for the ecosystem." It's not that they don't know English, it's that their other language is doing the driving. Hi, my name's Jane Maria Harding-DeRosa from Enriching ELT. In today's video, we're looking at why bilingual learners make word order mistakes, and more importantly, what we can do to help them notice and fix these patterns before they become fossilised. So why does this happen? When learners grow up using 2 or more languages, their brains become incredibly flexible, but also incredibly efficient. They recycle patterns from one language to another. For example, in Arabic, the verb often comes before the subject. So an Arabic-speaking learner might write, "Important for the ecosystem is the protection of wetlands," because to them, that order feels perfectly natural. This isn't carelessness, it's language transfer. And unless we help students notice the difference consciously, it can easily become fossilised, meaning it feels right to them even though it isn't accurate. It could be automatic processing. When speaking, learners can self-adjust because communication is fast and flexible. But writing's slower, and the brain often defaults to the safest, most familiar structure. This is why fluent speakers may still produce unusual syntax on paper. Perhaps there's a lack of conscious noticing. Advanced bilingual learners read for meaning, not structure. They understand texts easily, but they're not analysing the grammar. If they never consciously notice English word order, they don't update their internal grammar map, so the old pattern stays dominant. So now we know why these errors happen. The next step is helping learners notice what's actually going on in their sentences, because they can't change a pattern they haven't noticed. So the first step is getting learners to notice. They can't change what they don't acknowledge. When you see these errors in writing, don't just correct them. Guide them to how they can correct it. Try writing their sentence and the corrected one side by side. Then ask, what's different about the word order here? Which words have moved? That moment of reflection, that tiny spark of awareness, helps learners rewire the pattern. The next thing you can do is underline the phrase and just put WO next to it. This indicates that the word order is wrong and encourages them to self-correct. Another really simple but powerful technique is reformulation. Instead of just saying, "That's wrong," take a short piece of their writing, reformulate it into natural English, and ask them to compare their version and yours. Then, have them rewrite 1 or 2 sentences focusing on word order. It's a small step, but it turns correction into learning. One of my favourite classroom activities for this is dictogloss. And in fact, this is a good exercise for all learners, especially in subject lessons. Read a short text aloud once at normal speed about a topic you're covering, and ask the learners to take notes. Then in pairs, get them to reconstruct the text from memory. They can use both sets of notes, but they need to reconstruct it together. So they're not just working with the content, but they have to think about the language they are using in order to do it. When they compare their version to the original, they instantly notice differences in structure. That noticing makes the grammar stick. They may even notice differences in the content too, and that will also highlight what they need to work on and what they need to know. Finally, to help students internalise natural word order, encourage them to use chunks and sentence frames instead of single words. For example, I think that It depends on. The reason is that. These ready-made frames give structure and reduce the chance of transferring pattern from another language. So if we think in terms of the MMM framework, in the meet stage, students encounter a correct word order through reading and listening. In the manipulate stage, they compare, rebuild, and experiment with it. And finally, in the make it your own, they produce it accurately and confidently. Helping bilingual learners notice and work consciously with structure keeps their grammar developing rather than fossilising. If you found this useful, give it a thumbs up and share it with a colleague who's got bilingual learners in their class. And don't forget to subscribe. I'll be sharing more strategies like this as often as I can. Bye!